The Power of Faith, Modern Miracles and Testimonies. Have you ever wondered if miracles still happen these days? Can the power of faith really change the course of a life or even challenge its own science? Get ready to dive into real stories that will make you goosebumps. Miracles are not just reports of the past, they continue to happen around us, transforming lives in an extraordinary way. In this video, we will explore inspiring testimonies of people who have experienced the power of faith directly and impressively. From healings impossible to supernatural experiences, these reports show us that even in a modern world there are strengths that go beyond what we can see and explain. These stories are not just exciting, they have the power to rekindle their own faith and hope. Imagine the impact of a simple prayer on the life of someone who has lost all hopes. Imagine feeling the impossible happening right before your eyes. These stories are more than coincidences. It is evidence that when everything seems lost, faith can be the last resort, and often the only one necessary to transform a situation. Stay until the end and let yourself be inspired by these modern miracles that happen in the most unexpected places. If you are looking for hope or know someone who needs to hear about the power of faith, this video is for you. And before we start, I invite you to subscribe to the channel and share this video you love. Together we can spread these messages of hope and inspiration, because who knows, the next miracle may be waiting for you. The transforming impact of faith on daily life. Faith is a powerful force that can move mountains, and there are numerous contemporary stories that witness this power into action. In modern times, many turn to faith in times of despair, seeking not only comfort, but also miraculous interventions. This spiritual connection is able to operate extraordinary changes, even in the midst of the darker circumstances. One of these stories comes from a woman named Charlotte Holmes from Arkansas in the United States. Charlotte suffered a cardiac arrest and was considered clinically dead for several minutes. During this period, she reported having had a sight of the sky, where she experienced indescribable peace and saw family members who had already died. After his recovery, Charlotte stated that this experience was a miracle of God, reinforcing his faith and inspiring thousands of people around the world. In hospitals, doctors often face unexplained situations that challenge scientific logic. Dr. Chauncey Crandall, a renowned American cardiologist, witnessed one of these miracles firsthand. After declaring a patient killed by heart attack, Dr. Crandall prayed for him. Minutes later, the patient's heart hit, and he survived without sequelae. The doctor assigns this event to divine intervention and firmly believes that faith played a crucial role in this miraculous resurrection. Another exciting story comes from a young British named Paul Wood. He was diagnosed with an evil brain tumor, and doctors said he would have little life. However, Paul, along with his church, began to pray intensely for his healing. Without a medical explanation, the tumor disappeared before his surgery. Paul and his community believed this cure was a miracle, a direct response to his fervent prayers. Faith is not just a refuge in times of crisis, it is also an engine of hope that generates extraordinary miracles. Several people around the world report similar experiences, where science cannot explain what happened, but the power of faith is seen as the transforming factor. These testimonies, when shared, inspire and strengthen the faith of millions of people, proving that miracles are not a thing of the past. In churches around the world, the power of collective prayer remains a source of unshakable strength. Many congregations in countries such as the United States, Canada, and the United Kingdom have seen the impossible to happen in their communities. From miraculous healing to profound personal transformations, these stories remain a living proof that faith can change lives. These modern miracles and testimonies remind us that faith is an active and powerful force. It is not limited to biblical times, but continues to operate in our contemporary world. With each story we see how divine power can manifest when people fully trust God, making the impossible possible. If these stories have touched you, subscribe to the channel and share this video so that more people can know the transforming power of faith. Health miracles, when science has no explanation. Modern medicine is advanced, but there are times when even the greatest experts are perplexed in the face of recoveries and healings that challenge logic. In many of these cases, people of faith report divine intervention as the only possible explanation for these miracles. These stories not only inspire, but also raise important questions about the role of faith in seemingly unresolved medical situations. One story that shocked the world was John Smith, a teenager from the state of Missouri in the United States. He fell into a frozen lake and was submerged for more than 15 minutes. When rescuers rescued him, John was clinically dead. After 45 minutes of attempts to resurrect unsuccessfully, doctors were ready to declare the death. However, John's mother, Joyce Smith, entered the room and began to pray fervently. At an inexplicable moment, John's heart began to hit again. The doctors were perplexed, and many call it a miracle, as John did not suffer any brain damage, something impossible according to science. Another report comes from the United Kingdom, where Claire, a 42-year-old mother, was diagnosed with an aggressive form of breast cancer. Even with intensive treatments, doctors gave her just a few months old. Desperate, Claire and her family began a journey of prayer. Thousands of people in their church and community pray for their healing. When she returned to the hospital for new exams, the doctors were impressed to see that the cancer had completely disappeared, without medical explanation. Claire witnesses that her healing was a direct response to prayers. These stories show us that while medical science is extraordinary, it has limits. When these limits are hit, many people find in faith a source of hope and healing. This is what happened to Calvin Robertson, a resident of California. After suffering a serious car accident, Calvin was declared quadriplegic. The doctors said he would never walk. But after years of prayer and unshakable faith, Calvin began to recover movement slowly. Today he walks with the help of crutches and firmly believes his recovery was a miracle. Cases like these continue to emerge, where science cannot provide a concrete explanation, and faith becomes the only answer. For many people, these miraculous cures are a tangible proof that God still operates today, offering hope where there are no more human solutions. These testimonies not only strengthen the faith of those involved, but also inspire those who face situations similar to believing in the power of the supernatural. Doctors in various parts of the world, although skeptics by nature, have begun to recognize that there are cases where medicine cannot explain everything. Even in renowned hospitals in the United States, experts report cases where patients who were on the brink of death surprisingly recovered after times of intense prayer. For these doctors, these cures remain inexplicable phenomena, but for patients and their families, they are miracles. These reports not only challenge science, but also remind us that the power of faith is real and active. Although medicine wonders, the definitive healing often comes through divine intervention, confirming what many already know, that the impossible can become possible by faith. These testimonies are amazing, aren't they? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and share this video with your friends to spread these messages of hope and faith. The power of collective prayer, miracles in community. Individual faith is powerful, but when a community unites in prayer, the impact can be even deeper. In various parts of the world, testimonies of miracles achieved through collective prayers have multiplied. These events reinforce the belief that when two or more people gather in the name of God, extraordinary things can happen. One of the most striking cases happened in a church in the States United, in Oklahoma. After a devastating tornado that destroyed several houses in the region, a local community decided to join to help the victims. During a service, church members began to pray intensely by one of the neighborhoods that had been completely devastated by the storm. Incredibly, among the rubble, they found a house that had remained intact, protected by trees and wreckage that somehow did not reach the construction. The residents of the house, members of the church, believed that prayer protected them miraculously. Another impressive story occurred in the United Kingdom in the city of Birmingham. An entire congregation prayed for weeks for a young woman named Sarah, who was in a coma after a serious traffic accident. The doctors had informed the family that there was nothing else to do and suggested turning off the devices. However, the community refused to give up. A prayer vigil was organized, and, to everyone's surprise, Sarah woke up from the coma the next day, without any significant brain damage. This event was widely considered a miracle by the church, reinforcing the belief in the power of community prayer. In the city of Dallas, Texas, another miraculous testimony of collective prayer changed the life of an entire family. After months facing extreme financial difficulties, the Johnson brothers began attending a local church and asked for prayers for a financial miracle. In a matter of weeks, without waiting, they received an unexpected job offer that has changed their lives forever. They believed that the answer came directly from community prayers, which joined them in times of despair. In the United States, during an evangelical crusade, a crowd gathered to pray for a young woman named Emily, who was suffering from a rare and degenerative disease. After the prayer, Emily reported feeling an inexplicable heat through her body. Days later, doctors confirmed that their condition, considered incurable, had disappeared. For the faithful who participated in this prayer, there was no doubt that they witnessed a miracle. The strength of community prayer also manifests itself in times of global crisis. During the COVID-19 pandemic, numerous churches around the world gathered virtually to pray for the healing of the sick and the end of the pandemic. Although science played a vital role in controlling the crisis, many believe that the prayers of millions of people contributed to cure and protection miracles, especially in cases where medicine seemed to have no more answers. These stories show that the union of a community in faith can bring supernatural results. When people come together in prayer, there is a collective force that seems to amplify the individual request, leading to results that often challenge expectations. The miracles achieved through collective prayer not only benefit the recipient but also increase the faith of the whole community, creating a continuous cycle of belief and action. When entire communities witness such transforming events, faith is almost palpable. Churches and congregations become places of renewed hope, and the testimony of a miracle spreads, praying lives and encouraging others to seek the power of collective prayer. Stories like these show the power of union and faith. If you believe in the strength of prayer, subscribe to the channel and share this video so that more people can witness the power of faith in the community. Faith in times of danger, deliverances, and divine protection. In situations of great danger, when life is by a thread, many people cry out to God in search of protection. The power of faith at these criticisms has generated surprising accounts of inexplicable deliverances. These testimonies not only challenge human logic, but also reinforce the belief that God still operates as a protector and guardian of His children, even in impending threat scenarios. A story that exemplifies this happened to a man named Tim Hutton, a New York businessman who survived the September 11, 2001 terrorist attack. Tim worked in one of the Twin Towers and that morning for pure intuition, or as he believes, a divine warning, felt he should not enter the building. He remained on the street, witnessing the attack from a safe distance. Tim believes God protected him that day, guiding him away from danger. This experience has transformed his life and faith, leading him to share his testimony in various churches and communities. Another extraordinary deliverance occurred in Australia, where a family was surprised by a forest fire that spread quickly throughout the region. With no time to flee, they locked themselves in the bathroom and began to pray fervently. As the flames consumed everything around, their house remained inexplicably untouched. When the firefighters arrived, they found the residents surrounded by ashes, but completely preserved. For this family, the fact that they were so miraculously spared is a living proof that God heard his prayers and protected them. In the United States, a young girl named Amanda Clay of Chicago had an impressive experience while driving on a road during a strong storm. His car was hit by lightning, and all vehicle systems failed. Startled and not knowing what to do, Amanda began to pray. Minutes later, the car mysteriously returned to work, allowing her to leave the road safely. The electrician who inspected the vehicle later could not explain how the car worked again. Amanda believes that it was God who saved her from a fatal accident. Stories like these are also common among members of the armed forces. A remarkable testimony came from a British soldier, Daniel McCormick, who served in Afghanistan. During a patrol, his unit was ambushed, and he was seriously injured. While waiting for the rescue, Daniel prayed to survive. Minutes before losing consciousness, a helicopter appeared and took him to a military hospital. The doctors said he would not have survived a few more minutes without help. Daniel credits his survival to a miracle, believing that his prayers kept him alive until the help came. In Canada, a teacher named Helen Matthews was in a school when an armed man broke into the building. During chaos, Helen and her students hid in a locked room. Desperate, she led her students in a silent prayer, asking for protection. The invader has passed several times through the door, but never tried to enter. When all was over, Helen felt that God had protected her and her students from a tragic destination. Reports of divine protection in times of danger not only generate relief and gratitude to those who live them, but also inspire others to trust God in their own struggles. These miracles of deliverance serve as powerful reminders that, even in the midst of chaos, divine care can intervene supernaturally, bringing salvation and safety when everything seems lost. These stories also reinforce the notion that faith can activate the supernatural, not only in situations of healing or transformation, but also in times of physical danger. For many, it is the certainty that, regardless of the circumstances, God is present and attentive, ready to protect and save those who trust in Him. If these deliverance stories have touched your heart, subscribe to the channel and share this video with your friends so that more people know the power of faith in time of danger. Spiritual conversions and transformations, the miracle of redemptive faith. Miracles do not only happen on the physical plane, but also in the spiritual. Many people experience deep transformations in their lives through faith, leaving behind a past of darkness and finding a new direction in God. These stories of conversion and spiritual rebirth are modern miracles, where the heart is healed and a new life begins. A powerful example is Brian Welch, guitarist of the famous rock band Korn. Known for his destructive lifestyle, marked by drug abuse and alcohol, Brian hit the bottom of the well. During this dark period, he was invited by a friend to meet a Christian church. After a moment of prayer, Brian felt a radical change in his life. He abandoned the drugs immediately and found peace in his new faith. Today Brian shares his testimony around the world, inspired by the transformation he experienced through Jesus Christ. For him, this change was a true spiritual miracle. Another impressive testimony comes from Anne Lamott, a renowned American author. Anne lived much of her life away from faith, fighting vices and a debilitating depression. In the midst of despair, it started to attend a small church in your community, not knowing exactly what you were looking for. Gradually Anne felt the touch of God in her life, culminating in her conversion to Christianity. Her life was completely transformed, and she began to write about her journey of faith, inspiring thousands of people around the world with her sincere and exciting account. In the United States, another impactful story of spiritual transformation is that of David Berkowitz, also known as the infamous Son of Sam, a serial killer who terrorized New York in the 1970s. Arrested and sentenced to life imprisonment, David had an experienced conversion behind bars. After years of loneliness and despair, he was approached by a Christian cell companion who gave him a Bible. In reading the scriptures, David felt a profound change in his heart and gave his life to Christ. Today, he is an example of redemption, sharing his testimony of spiritual transformation and faith with other detainees. The story of Nicky Cruz, a former gang leader in New York, is another exciting report of transformation by faith. Nicky led one of the most violent gangs in the city, but his life gave a radical turn after finding a preacher named David Wilkerson. During one of his meetings, Nicky heard the message of God's love for the first time. It changed everything. He abandoned the crime life and began to preach the gospel, helping thousands of young people leave the streets and find a new purpose. Nicky's conversion is seen by many as a miracle, a living proof of the redeeming power of faith. These stories of personal transformation are a reminder that the biggest miracles often happen within us. When a person decides to open his heart to God, the result can be as powerful as any physical cure or danger deliverance. Change in heart and soul is itself a miracle that transcends human understanding and transforms lives forever. In England, a successful businessman named Alan Carr lived a life of excesses, completely distant from any religious practice. However, after a serious car accident, where he narrowly survived, Alan began to question the meaning of his life. It was at this moment that he was invited to a prayer meeting, where he experienced a deep spiritual experience. He has given his life to God and has since shared his testimony to others, saying that his encounter with faith was the true miracle that changed his life. These spiritual miracles remind us that the power of faith is not limited to the body, but extends to the deepest of the soul. These are stories of conversion, redemption, and transformation that reveal the impact of a genuine relationship with God. Like physical healing, these spiritual transformations inspire and strengthen the faith of millions of people around the world. Testimonies of overcoming through faith, overcoming adversity. Overcoming adversities is one of the greatest proof of human resilience, and faith plays a crucial role for many that face seemingly insurmountable challenges. Worldwide, people have shared their stories of overcoming, where trust in God was the decisive factor in overcoming extremely difficult situations. These testimonies are powerful examples of how faith can turn pain into victory. One of the best-known testimonies in the United States is that of Nick Vujicic, a man who was born without arms and legs. Nick went through moments of great despair during his childhood and adolescence, even questioning his reason for living. However, gradually he discovered the power of faith in Jesus Christ and thus found a purpose for his life. Today, Nick is an internationally recognized speaker, sharing his history and inspiring millions of people around the world never to give up regardless of the challenges they face. He believes that faith was the foundation that gave him the strength to transform his physical limitations into a global inspiration platform. Another impact-filled example is that of American Bethany Hamilton, a surfer who lost his arm in a shark attack. For many, such an accident would have marked the end of a promising career, but Bethany refused to give up. With unshakable faith in God and the support of her family, she surfed only a month after the attack. Its story was told in a movie success, and Bethany continues to compete in professional surf tournaments, as well as sharing her testimony of overcoming through faith. In the United States, we also have the example of Jeremy Camp, a Christian singer who faced the devastating loss of his first wife, Melissa, due to cancer. Jeremy had to deal with intense pain, but it was in his faith that he found the strength to continue. After Melissa's death, he wrote several songs inspired by his journey of mourning and overcoming, which deeply played many people around the world. His testimony of pain and resilience, along with the certainty that Melissa was now with God, helped him find peace. He firmly believes that his faith was the pillar that sustained him during this dark period. Another report of overcoming comes from the life of David Ring, an American preacher who was born with cerebral palsy. During his youth, David faced years of bullying and disbelief from many around him. However, he clung to faith and, instead of accepting the limitation imposed by his condition, began to share his history and preach in churches. Today, David inspires thousands of people around the world, showing that even with significant challenges, faith can open doors to accomplish great things. In the United Kingdom, a testimony of touching overcoming comes from a young woman called Claire. After suffering a serious depression that led her to try to take off her own life, Claire found faith in a moment of despair. A friend invited her to a church, and there she experienced a peace she had never felt before. Over time, your life has been completely transformed. Today, Claire helps other people who suffer from depression, sharing her story of how faith in God rescued her from darkness and brought her to a full life of purpose and hope. These testimonies show that in the face of adversity, faith offers a force that goes beyond human ability. For many, belief in God is not just a comfort, but a true source of power that helps them overcome the unsurpassed. Each story of overcoming is a reminder that even in the most difficult situations, faith can open ways where there seems to be no way out. These contemporary examples not only inspire but also challenge the belief that life obstacles are insurmountable. On the contrary, they show that with faith everything is possible. God continues to operate through the lives of people who, by putting their trust in Him, can turn difficulties into triumphs. These stories of overcoming through faith are really transformative. Subscribe to the channel and share this video with someone who needs inspiration to overcome your own challenges. The power of faith in family relationships, restoration miracles. Faith not only transforms individual lives, but also has a profound impact on family relationships. Many families, who were on the brink of collapse due to conflicts, separations, or other challenges, found healing and restoration through faith. These family miracles are proof that when God is placed in the center, even the most worn relationships can be renewed and strengthened. In the United States, a couple named Michael and Wendy Tester faced a serious crisis in their marriage. After years of accumulated resentment and constant fights, the two were ready for divorce. However, after one last effort, they accepted a friend's invitation to participate in a Christian couples retreat. During this weekend, they experienced a spiritual and emotional renewal. Michael and Wendy began to pray together, and over time, faith has been rebuilding confidence and love between them. Today, they share their testimony, helping other couples in crisis to seek restoration through God. Another impact-filled example comes from the story of Peter and Grace, a family of London, England. After years of removal between father and son due to conflicts of values and life choices, Peter found himself insistently praying for reconciliation with his son. Faith was the only thing that kept it firm, believing that one day they could reconcile. Months later, in a Christmas service, his son reappeared unexpectedly in the church, and there they both cried and hugged, forgiving each other. This moment was seen as a true miracle for Peter and his family. In Canada, a mother named Jessica prayed for years for the release of his eldest child from drugs. Daniel, his son, had completely walked away from his family and lived on the streets, lost in addiction. Jessica, moved by faith, gathered her church and began a stream of intercessory prayer by Daniel. Months later, he appeared at the door, wanting help. The restoration was gradual, but Daniel believes it was God who guided him back to his family after years of darkness and destruction. Today, he is free from drugs and helps others in similar situations. Restoration of family relationships through faith is not limited to weddings or blood ties. Several stories show how deep friendships and distant family relationships can be healed by divine intervention. In the United States, Sarah and Lisa, two sisters who had not been spoken for more than 10 years due to a family fight, decided to take the first step towards reconciliation after a series of sermons in the church about forgiveness. Both gradually got closer, and today they are best friends, crediting faith the cure of the relationship that seemed lost. Another touching example of a family miracle comes from John and Amanda, an Australian couple who, after years trying to have children, faced the frustration of multiple miscarriages. They began to pray for a miracle, asking God to bless them with a son. After a very difficult pregnancy, Amanda gave birth to a healthy baby. They believed their son was a divine gift, the result of prayers and the unshakable faith they kept during the moments of pain and uncertainty. Faith also has a key role in restoring families that have faced losses. In a small town in Texas, the couple Johnson lost their teenage daughter in a tragic car accident. Devastated by pain, they almost gave up everything. However, with the support of their church, they began to seek healing through faith. Today, the Johnson help other families who have undergone similar losses, witnessing that even in suffering God can restore hope and heal broken hearts. These powerful testimonies show that, regardless of challenges or wounds, faith has the power to heal and restore families. God acts as a mediator, capable of transforming broken relationships into renewed ties and full of love. For those who believe, these family miracles serve as a reminder that even in the worst crises, there is always hope for restoration when God is present. If these family restoration stories have touched you, subscribe to the channel and share this video with your friends and family so that more people can know the restorative power of faith.